Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking you inside a world of, well, absolute shattering contrast, the Enfield Tennis Academy.
Hmm.
And our mission really is to understand how this whole ecosystem survives. I mean, on one hand, it demands physical perfection from its athletes.
Total perfection.
And on the other, you have this academic and political environment that is just, it's utterly chaotic. It's often pathologically bizarre.
It is. It's a study in cognitive dissonance, really.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and navigate it by following four main threads today.
Okay.
We'll look at the strange classes taught by these low-level pros, the feverish ambition of the student media, and then this terrifying history of political violence just across the border.
And the fourth.
And finally, the life of one remarkable individual, Mario Incandenza,
Okay.
who somehow manages to not just exist, but, thrive at the very center of it all.
Let's jump right in there with the instructors because that's where the contradiction really starts. You'd expect an elite academy to have, intellectual giants.
Of course.
But here, a lot of the academic side is run by the prorectors, and these aren't administrators. They're low-level touring tennis pros.
That's exactly right. They are anything but intellectual stars. And their classes, I mean, the names alone tell you everything. Deviant geometries, introduction to athletic spreadsheets.
Right.
These aren't serious courses. They're basically elective jokes, and the Dean of Academic Affairs, he barely even acknowledges them for core credit.
But if they're jokes, why do the older students fight to get into them?
Well, it's two things. First, they're just famous no-brainers. You pass if you show up and display vital signs.
Easy credit.
The easiest.
Yeah.
But the second reason is much more unsettling. It's that the prorectors themselves are often, and this is a quote, kind of bats.
Bats.
Which makes the classes fascinating the way plane crash footage is fascinating. It just speaks to this deep need for some kind of stimulus, even if it's morbid.
That morbid fascination seems to be what keeps the system going.
Absolutely. Take Mary Esther Thode. The upperclassmen all seem to agree she is probably insane by, clinical standards.
But
But her coaching proficiency with the girls' 16s is beyond dispute. And that's the core paradox of the whole academy, Proficiency covers a multitude of sins.
And Thode has a serious history, a history of political agitation that actually got her blacklisted from the professional circuit.
She tried to organize the more radical female players, the distaff players, into this group called FOPPP.
FOPP?
The Female Objectification Prevention and Protest Phalanx. It was a serious, radical post-feminist grange.
Wow.
The idea was to get women to compete only among themselves, rejecting the whole professional structure.
Yeah.
It failed. She got blacklisted. Now she's teaching.
And there's the smell, right? Any room she's in just reeks of vitamin B.
Overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that brings us to Ted Schacht, who keeps taking her classes, despite the smell.
He took her class last spring, The Toothless Predator, Breastfeeding a Sexual Assault. He called it one of the most disorientingly fascinating experiences of his life.
And his current midterm is a perfect example of this academic chaos. It's called The Personal is the Political, is the Psychopathological.
Okay.
The exam lays out this scenario, items IA through ED. You're driven by two equally paralyzing compulsions. A double bind.
Describe that double bind because it's genuinely terrifying, even if it is just psychological.
Okay, so you are pathologically kleptomaniacal.
Yeah.
You have this uncontrollable driving need to steal things.
Right.
But at the same time, you are pathologically agoraphobic. You're completely paralyzed by the fear of leaving your home.
And you live alone.
You live alone. So you can't satisfy the need to steal without forcing yourself in the absolute panic of leaving. The question on the exam is just, what do you do?
It's a profound, destructive impasse.
It is. And there's a critical note. The exam says this counts as a double bind, whether it's caused by true personal psychopathology or by political marginalization.
So it's forcing the students to see how a personal crisis and, political oppression can feel exactly the same. They lead to the same impossible place.
Exactly. But this whole deep existential crisis is, well, it's violently interrupted.
Right. Just as Schacht is trying to figure this out, the entire class is breached by noise. The WITA student radio broadcast blasts over the intercom.
Complete with a Eustachian crumpling operatic soundtrack.
Of course.
And this is the brainchild of Jim Troeltsch, and he just perfectly encapsulates the Academy's manic ambition.
Right, because he realized early on he wouldn't be showbound. He wasn't going to be a top pro player.
Exactly. So he took all that competitive drive and just channeled it, all of it, into broadcasting.
And he is all in. He spends a fortune on his Interlaces SPN Pro Match cartridge library. He's constantly studying the real sportscasters.
Oh, and the hair. Shamelessly practicing his comb-over for that glassy toupee-like look of a professional, chasing down real sportscasters for coffee just to be near them.
And his big professional struggle is, how do you make a long, boring list of scores sound exciting?
It's described as a never-ending and serious quest for synonyms for beat and got beat by. And this pressure leads him to use this truly lurid, violent, and frankly ridiculous language for routine junior matches.
The examples are just astonishing. They sound like scenes from a horror movie. You hear things like, Lamont Chu disemboweled Charles Pospisilova. That's a tennis score.
Or what about the brutality of this one? Jeff Penn was on Nate Mills Johnson like a duck on a June bug. It just strips away any sense of, civilized competition.
And the most evocative one, it's almost cannibalistic. Peter Beek spread Villa Dillard on a cracker like some sort of hors d'oeuvre and bit down.
And then it just gets fantastical. Todd Postlethwaite moonballed R. Greg Chubb into a narcoleptic coma. The implication of all this, this hyperbolic language, is critical. I mean, these are junior tennis results, but they're described with total annihilation, with violence, even ingestion.
It shows the feverish, high-stakes atmosphere of the whole school. A loss isn't just a loss, it's being disemboweled or eaten.
Exactly.
And that same intensity, it just bleeds right into the geopolitical curriculum. Which brings us to Howling Candace's class, Separatism and Return, Quebecois History.
A class he only took because of scheduling and finds profoundly annoying.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult, mainly because the instructor, Mademoiselle Thierry Poutrincourt, teaches only in Quebecois French.
Which is described how?
As a gurgly, glottal language that seems to require a perpetually sour facial expression to pronounce. Hal is, inwardly apolitical. He finds it all distasteful, but the modern parts give him a queasy feeling.
It's like someone is reading his discarded mail, right?
Yeah, that's the phrase. And Mademoiselle Poutrincourt is constantly stressed because that same Ouida broadcast, Jim Troeltsch's opera-backed scores, always interrupts the end of her class. She has to press her palms against her temples to deal with it.
So this history, it moves from like gentlemanly warfare to something much more immediate.
It does. The proud and haughty Quebecois were already harassing Canada, but then ONAN was established, and the Great Convexity was gerrymandered, and that turned their malevolent attention south to the U.S.
Okay, wait. We need to clarify those. ONAN and the Great Convexity. This is a massive geopolitical reorganization we're talking about.
Precisely. ONAN is the Organization of North American Nations.
Yeah.
A unified governing body, basically.
Okay.
And the Great Convexity is this huge, irregular chunk of U.S. land that was designated as a hazardous waste disposal site. And it largely cut off provinces like Quebec from their historical routes.
Which they took as a profound insult, a provocation.
A huge one. And this anger led to these truly terrifying and diabolic early strikes by post-FLN insurgents. A terrorist cell would sneak down at night from the EWD-blighted Papineau region.
EWD.
Entertainment Weekly disease, a horrific affliction connected to the waste site.
Jesus.
And they would drag these huge standing mirrors across U.S. Interstate 87.
So what's the plan with the mirrors?
They'd set them up in these narrow, dangerous passes in the Adirondacks. Now imagine you're driving northbound at night. You're an ONAN motorist. You see what looks like headlights right in your lane.
But it's your own headlights reflecting back at you.
Exactly. You think some suicidal idiot is coming straight for you?
So you flash your high beams?
And rear flashes back. And because there's no shoulder on the pass, you veer wildly off the road into a chasm to avoid a collision that was never going to happen.
And this worked?
Scores of fatalities piled up in those chasms. For over 20 months, investigators completely missed it. They blamed it on, inexplicable sleepiness or suicide. The head of the U.S. Office of Unspecified Services, Rodney Tyne, was desperately pushing for anti-drowsy driving PSAs.
So this horrific illusion was maintained for almost 2 years. How did it end?
The source says it was shattered only when a Valium-addicted suicidal Amway distributor from Schenectady. Well, she was at the end of her rope. She saw the approaching lights, thought it was a sign of grace, closed her eyes, and just floored it.
She hit the mirror.
She smashed the illusion, revealing the mirrors and the true, engineered, horrific nature of the attacks. It was this terrifying exposure of anti-ONAN ill will, a demonstration of how chaos and illusion could create mass tragedy.
And now we have to make this, it's a jarring transition, but a necessary one. From that violent, chaotic world to the life of the one person who stands apart from it all. Hal's older brother, Mario Incandenza.
Right.
And his existence also began in chaos, as a complete surprise. Their mother, Avril Incandenza, had a hidden pregnancy. She never showed, bled like clockwork, normal affect, appetite, everything.
And the birth itself sounds like a shocking, traumatic event. It's the 7th month, cold November evening, and Avril just stops on the maple staircase. She's ashen, her water breaks.
And their father, James Incandenza, sees her slow descent in this Vermeer light, terrified because his own father had died on a staircase.
Right. And Mario was so premature he had to be, quote, scraped out, like the meat of an oyster.
Yeah.
He was found clinging to the womb by these sinew cords attached to his feet in one hand.
A spiderish clinging. It's an incredible image.
It is. And that dramatic, difficult entry into the world really defined his lifelong physical challenges. Even now as a young man, he's only the size of an elf or a jockey.
And his arms. They're withered, brachioexotic.
Which means they stopped growing. And they're curled into these majuscule S's, like large, curved, painful S shapes that make most fine motor skills impossible.
But they're also impressively pain-resistant.
Very. And his mobility is also deeply affected. He moves with a lurchy, falling half stumble. That's because of his block feet. Not just flat, they're perfectly square. And a lower spinal lordosis.
That's the exaggerated curve in the spine.
Right. And when he lists forward, he sometimes falls, which explains his squished, flared nose, whose nostrils tend to flap a little bit.
And his facial features are just as unique. He has this advanced eyelid prosthesis that hangs low.
Because the original eyelid was sacrificed at birth when the fist that was stuck to his face had to be peeled away.
So the prosthesis gives him this oddly friendly pirate squint, which is combined with an involuntary constant smile.
And the overall visual effect, with his khaki-colored gray-green skin and atrophic features, it lends him an uncannily reptilian dinosaurian look.
But this is where the deeper insight lies, right? His mind.
Absolutely. The Brandeis CDC assessed him, found him technically slow on standard tests, but they were explicit. He's not cognitively damaged or retarded.
His mind is described as refracted, epistemically bent.
Exactly. He just processes information differently. It takes a little longer in the manner of all refracted things, but he's still capable of high-level thought.
And the source material focuses so heavily on the bond he had with his late father, James Incandenza, the filmmaker.
They were inseparable. Mario was his honorary assistant for the last 3 years of his dad's life. He'd carry these huge, complex packs of film and lenses, just lurching gamely to keep up.
And his father was so committed to making sure Mario could participate. For his 13th Christmas, James willed him this ingenious, customized camera rig.
It's incredible. A trusty old Bolex tri-lensed camera bolted directly to an aviator's helmet.
The whole thing controlled by a sewing machine-adapted foot treadle.
It's such a remarkable act of adaptation. He created a way for his son, whose hands were basically useless for this, to frame and record the world using the only functional limbs he had.
He did, and Mario uses that same rig now at ETA to make their fundraising documentaries, to videotape the students' strokes, and to make his own ambitious art films.
And he has this strange, protected celebrity in the community. He's treated with this profound, casual gentility.
He connects the academy to the outside world in a way no one else does, a favorite of the local shopkeepers. He's supported by Lyle, the sweat guru, who Mario always brings caffeine-free Diet Cokes to.
And trainer Barry Loach, who all but kisses the kid's ring because Mario saved him from the rank panhandling underbelly of Boston Commons netherworld.
Even Coach Stitt, the stern patriarch of the academy, goes on walks with Mario and lets him ride in his surplus sidecar.
Mario is the thread. He runs through the intense, high-performing academy and the broken, messy world outside.
And that deep connection extends to his immediate and, highly dysfunctional family. His younger brother, Hal, almost idealizes Mario.
He does. Hal sees him as a semi-walking miracle who refused to curl up in his fire. He believes Mario just floats above all the chaos.
And Avril, the mom's, she sees Mario as the family's real prodigy, a very rare and shining thing, even with his academic poverty.
Her love for him transcends all other experiences, and yet she tries so hard to leave him alone, not to hover. Because she's afraid that seeing him as the true genius might be too much pressure for him to bear. It's a heartbreakingly complex love.
And that protective idealism from Hal, it manifests in direct action. There's this one scene that just says it all.
When the veiled legate from the Union of the Hideously and Improbably Deformed shows up to talk about blind inclusion v. visual estrangement.
Right. And it's Hal who drives the guy away.
And he doesn't use words.
Hmm.
He uses his tool of performance. He drives the guy away by brandishing his Dunlop stick,
Yeah.
his weapon of perfection.
The physically perfect athlete defending the physically marginalized sibling, whom he considers the true source of light. It's an incredible dynamic.
It really is.
So if we try to connect this to the bigger picture, the entire world of this academy is defined by an extreme, often violent demand for physical performance and control.
You see it everywhere. In the brutal tennis scores, the flawless strokes, the terrifying political insurgency with the mirrors.
And yet, the most cherished and centrally connected figure in this whole ecosystem is Mario, who exists entirely outside of that physical ideal.
Mario, the one with the atrophic features and the lurchy gait, he is the figure of pure, complex resilience. He was created by chaos, the surprise birth, the family drama. But he lives this life of strange celebrity and deep emotional connection.
He embodies a kind of acceptance that the performance-driven athletes around him they can't grasp it.
Which really raises an important question, doesn't it? In a world obsessed with performance and control on the court, and politically, with ONAN and the separatists, is the refracted perspective, the one that floats instead of burns. Is that actually the only sustainable path to peace?
Right. Mario, with his unique mind and his physical challenges, he's incapable of participating in the perfectionist demands of his world, but he influences everyone in it profoundly.
He does.
So, a final provocative thought for you to consider. Mario's father, the filmmaker, created a camera that he could operate with his feet, allowing him to literally frame and record the world as he lurches through it. What is the fundamental difference between seeing and recording life through that kind of technological proxy and truly participating in the high-stakes, imperfect world around you? And which one ultimately affords Mario the greatest peace?